So, Donald Trump's new tariffs are officially here, but honestly, it feels like nobody's quite sure what's going on. We're hearing about 10%, then maybe 15%. It's all pretty confusing. So let's try to break it all down, cut through the noise, and figure out what the administration's real strategy is.
All right, so where is all this confusion coming from? It really boils down to this. Right now, there's a 10% tariff that's actually active. But then, over the weekend, a completely different 15% tariff was announced. So, which one is it? I mean, if you're a business, how on earth are you supposed to plan for that? It's a messy situation, so let's try to unravel it.
Okay, to get how we ended up here, you gotta rewind to last Friday. And what a whirlwind it was. The US Supreme Court actually struck down the existing tariffs. But then, just hours later, bam, Trump fires back, signing an executive order that puts a brand new 10% tariff on pretty much all countries. Talk about a rapid turnaround.
Okay, let's just lay this out nice and simple. The 10% tariff? That's the real deal. It's in effect right now. It came from a formal executive order. We know the details. Now, that 15% tariff you heard about? That's just a proposal for now. It was announced over the weekend, sure, but it's not final, and the details are still pretty fuzzy. And that uncertainty? Well, that's what's giving businesses a massive headache.
Okay, so for now, let's just focus on the one that's actually real, the one that's on the books, that 10% tariff. The big question is, who has to pay it, and are there any exceptions?
So, not everyone is on the hook. There are a couple of major exemptions. First up, Canada and Mexico get a pass for any goods that are already covered under their existing trade deal with the US. And second, certain food and farm products are also exempt. And the thinking behind that is pretty straightforward. It's an attempt to keep your grocery bills from suddenly skyrocketing.
But, even with those exemptions, this whole mess, this confusion between the 10% that's happening and the 15% that might happen, it's creating this huge ripple effect, especially for businesses trying to navigate all this.
And this right here is the heart of the problem for anyone trying to sell stuff to the US. I mean, just put yourself in their shoes for a second. How do you plan? Do you price your products based on the 10% tariff that exists today? Or do you have to bake in the possibility of a sudden jump to 15% tomorrow? It's a total gamble.
And listen, this isn't just some business school problem. It's having real-world consequences. This confusion is now boiling over into some serious legal battles against the US government. The lawsuits are really starting to pile up.
Which brings us to the next chapter of this whole saga, a legal showdown with an unbelievable amount of money at stake. Just look at that number, $175 billion. Now, that's not a typo. That's how much the US government has collected from these tariffs over the years. That is a staggering amount of money, bigger than the entire economy of a lot of countries. And now, well, a lot of companies want it back.
And leading the charge is a name you definitely know, FedEx. Yep, the global shipping giant has officially filed a lawsuit against the government. They're not just complaining, they are demanding a full refund for all the tariffs they've already paid.
So, what's at stake for just one company like FedEx? Well, they had already warned that these tariffs could cost them up to a cool $1 billion. So you can imagine the size of the check they're hoping to get back.
And look, FedEx is not going it alone, not by a long shot. You've got a whole chorus of corporate giants joining in. We're talking Costco, Toyota, Goodyear. They're all either filing their own lawsuits or getting ready to. This is turning into a massive, widespread legal rebellion.
So here's the bottom line. If the government starts losing these court cases, it could have to pay back a huge chunk of that $175 billion. I mean, we're talking about a repayment bill that would absolutely be one for the history books.
Okay, so you've got this massive legal threat hanging over everything. What's the administration's game plan? Well, it looks like they're rolling out a new two-part counter-strategy.
Part one of the strategy is, well, it's pretty simple. Stall. Donald Trump basically said it out loud himself, suggesting these legal battles could drag on for the next 5 years. So the idea is to just tie up these existing lawsuits in the court system for as long as humanly possible.
But stalling, that's just playing defense. While those old lawsuits are stuck in legal quicksand, the administration is getting ready to go on offense, but on a totally different battlefield.
So what is this new playbook? Well, it seems to break down into 4 key steps. First, the plan is to launch brand new investigations, but this time, frame them around national security. Next, they'll zero in on specific products that are really important to the US. Then they'll officially label these imported goods as national security risks. And finally, that new label gives the president special powers to slap on new duties and restrictions.
And get this, reports are saying there's already a list of products they might target with this new strategy. We're not talking about small stuff here.
We're talking about crucial things like batteries, electrical grid equipment, telecom hardware, and key industrial chemicals, all things the U.S. imports a ton of.
So you might be asking, why this big switch to national security? Well, the reason is pretty simple, and it's all about making their case much stronger in court. You see, under U.S. law, when something is officially a national security risk, it gives the president a whole different set of powers. And the key part? It makes these actions much, much harder for companies to successfully challenge.
So let's just recap this big shift. The old way, just imposing direct tariffs, was turning out to be legally shaky, and it's now facing a huge wave of expensive lawsuits. The new way, this national security angle, well, it's built to be much tougher to fight in court, and it leans on a whole different set of presidential powers.
And all of this leaves us with one big final question. Is this whole national security playbook just a clever legal trick to keep the same old tariffs, but with a new, more defensible name? Or are we watching the opening moves of a brand new and maybe even more intense global trade war?